Are you ready to embrace the journey of perimenopause and menopause with grace and empowerment? Well, if you are, this episode is for you. Our very special guest, Lisa Boate, is a menopause coach, and she is going to drop a ton of wisdom and tips that's going to help guide you on this journey and this life stage. Welcome to It Gets Better From Here podcast, where we help divorced women rediscover their true selves, reclaim their power, and rebuild a life even better than before. I am a transformational coach, I am a founder, and I am your host of It Gets Better From Here podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to this week's guest, my friend who I actually met virtually, but we are really good friends now. She is Lisa Boate, and she's dedicated to empowering women thrive during menopause and advocating for workplace health initiatives. Lisa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I am so glad to be here.
Lisa, please share with us your journey of how you became a menopause coach.
Yeah, it's a bit of a winding road. I was having a conversation for my show this morning, and I said, if you had told me 5 years ago that there was going to be a global pandemic that was going to change everything, that I was going to quit teaching and become a menopause coach, I would have looked at you like, what the actual, like, whose life do you think you are talking about here? And yet that's what happened. So like I said, I alluded to, I was an educator for 20 years. And in the last decade of my career, I was a coach and provided professional development for other educators. And I loved that aspect of my job. I loved that it gave more flexibility. Like when you are working in a classroom, you have no control over your own life. Like you don't even choose when you eat or when you go to the bathroom. Like it's that fundamentally, like this is how it is. So I really loved the flexibility of being able to work with different people every day, being different places, to be a little bit more in control of my own time. And then the pandemic hit. And I was supporting other educators online. Like I was their tech support. I was leading them through how to do this thing that nobody really knew how to do. And at the same time, my own kids were getting older and didn't need me as much. And there was this shifting energy that was happening in my life where I was starting to feel like teaching wasn't really a fit. Like I was starting to grow outside of what that was. And my kids didn't need me in the way they did initially. And so I had this moment of like, I am on the other side of everything I've ever imagined for my life. And I don't know what comes next. And that was both terrifying and sort of liberating at the same time. So I did end up resigning from teaching. And because of that sort of that feeling around the empty nest, right? Of our kids being at that phase where they're about to launch and there's not a lot of support, right? Like when we have young humans, there's prenatal classes and there's community and there's mom and baby groups, and that's essential. And we also need that same level of support at the other end, but it doesn't exist there particularly. So I started working in the empty nest space, providing that support for women who are going through the same thing that I was going through. And I like to take a really holistic approach to everything. So during the conversations and the work that I was doing with those women, there were always physical issues that were coming up. And I was having my own perimenopause symptoms starting to show themselves. So I took a menopause coaching course, and it was some of the most imperative learning I have ever done. And I don't use that word lightly. Like I really mean it, because there is so much about how our body works that we have no idea about. And looking back on the last couple of years of my teaching career, I now realize that perimenopause was playing a huge role in my experience. And I'm not saying that I would have made a different choice. However, it would have been nice to have had a more informed experience of what was happening to me physically during that time. So that's how I got here. That's how I got to the menopause coaching component, and really also starting to work with businesses, organizations to create menopause empowered workplaces. Because there was a report released in Canada, and there's a very similar one in the US, showing that 1 in 10 women are leaving the workforce at the peak of their career because of unsupported menopause and perimenopause symptoms.
Wow. I
Right.
cannot believe, but I'm so happy that now there is, there's talk now.
Yes.
That's amazing, Lisa. Please continue. This is everything that's so many things going on in my head as you're speaking.
Yeah, no, I know. I hear you. Yeah. So, going to the 1 in 10 women, we deserve to be able to continue it however we choose, right? And maybe the best decision for someone is to leave the job that they were doing to try something new. But for someone else, it might be that they really love the work they're doing and they want to continue to do it, but they can't because of the symptoms and a structure that cannot flex to support them. So, and there is so much that we can do. Like, one of the things I'm always cautious about when I talk about menopause to say is, look, we're going to go on a journey, because some of this information is really hard to hear and it might feel hopeless. However, yes, there are hard physical things, but this also is a time of incredible liberation and opportunity. And that is what I want to make sure that people also hear. Like, this is not the end of the road. It's not the end of the journey. It's really just a beginning.
I love this. Is so enlightening. It's a breath of fresh air because I am in that perimenopause stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the old model, the old way of thinking is, oh, once you hit mid 40s, 50s, that's it. You're supposed to be this little old lady and you shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z. God forbid you feel like you can thrive and, feel youthful until who knows, till your last day on earth. God forbid, shame on you. But no, we need to change the narrative. And I'm so grateful for you sharing your gifts and your light and your wisdom here on our show today, because we need to wake up to the fact that there is hope. Like you said, there's something else. And if you can just touch on what are some of, the key tips that we can look forward to in this stage of life, because that's where my audience is, of divorced women and single moms. They probably have no clue what's happening to their body. They're associating it with survival mode. So if
Yes.
you can enlighten us, Lisa, that would be great.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that forward, because menopause and perimenopause are more complex than people think. Right. So, there's two thoughts that want to come out of my mouth at the same time. So I'm going to I'm going to separate them out. So one, we hear about hot flushes and night sweats, right? And they're often the butt of the joke of what women are going through at this stage. But that is only the tip of the iceberg, and not every woman experiences those things either. So, what's important to know is that you need to really listen to your body and trust what it's telling you. So, perimenopause can last up to 10 years prior to menopause. And menopause is one day, actually. It's the day when you haven't had a cycle for 12 full months. And then you move into postmenopause. So, menopause is that day when you've gone 1 full year. Perimenopause is all the time that comes before, when your hormones are fluctuating. So you might have irregular cycles. You might have really heavy bleeding. You might have spotting. Anxiety, increased anxiety, changes in digestion, allergies that you didn't have before. Yes, that's a big one that people don't know, is that allergies can change. Itchy ears. Itchy ears is one of my biggest symptoms And I had no idea, but that is connected to perimenopause, because as our membranes are like estrogen is declining, our membranes, not only vaginally but membranes everywhere, are drying and thinning, including in the ears. So
Holy
that's what
mother of
leads.
God, Lisa, thank you for this info.
Yeah.
I'm like, the other day I had an itchy ass ear and I'm like, is there something in there? Like, what
Yeah.
is happening here?
Yes, itchy ears. It's like one of my nonstop things, and changes cardiovascular. So going back to hot flushes and night sweats, those are actually or vasomotor events. So it because estrogen has protective factors for every system in your body, when estrogen starts to decline, your body needs a way to tell you things are going on in here and we don't have the same kind of protection that we used to. It's time to start doing things differently. So the way I position menopause symptoms is as they are messages from your body to listen to. And then there's all kinds of things that we can do to put in place to make it better. Right. So the core four, I'm going to say them and it's going to be like, really, it's those things again. It's always those things. And I'm like, yes, it is always those things. So it is stress management, sleep, nutrition, and movement. And those are the, components of a healthy health span. Right. So having those routines in place, and that's where working with somebody like me is really helpful, because you can go to practitioners. Like I'm starting to develop a network of practitioners who are really skilled, which is not an easy thing to do, because the other thing is that menopause is really misunderstood. And there's a lot of myth and misinformation within the healthcare community, because there's not a lot of research around on women's bodies and how things actually function. It's starting, like we're starting to have that information, but it's new. So when you go to a healthcare practitioner and they give you some information, if you come to somebody like me, I can say, okay, this is how we're going to take that and actually make it doable in your life. And then the things that you look forward to are, again, like it is a bit of a double-edged sword, because all of the ways that we have defined ourselves, all the roles that we have said are who we are, like mother, partner, employee, whatever it is, at this phase, those things start falling away. And we are revealed to be you have to be the truth of who you are when you're not playing through the roles. It gives you the opportunity to show up as the truth of who you actually are, which is this beautiful gift once you get through the like, what am I doing and who am I? It's a birth. We were talking earlier about birth. It is a birth for us. It is not a death.
I just want to jump in here real quick to talk about something super near and dear to my heart. When I was going through my divorce, I didn't just feel alone. I spent so much time, money, and I made a ton of mistakes just to try to figure out how I was going to heal and move my life forward. Even with my amazing family and friends, I just couldn't find anyone who truly understood what I was going through as a single mom, as a highly ambitious, driven, and focused divorced woman. If you're feeling this way too, I totally get it, which is exactly why I created the Phoenix Rising Divorce Community. This is an exclusive private online community that is away from social media and is specifically designed for high-performing divorced women who want to connect, to heal, to grow together, all while having the tools and resources to truly take their power back once and for all. If you're ready to stop wasting time, money, resources, and you're tired of doing it alone, and you're finally ready to move your life forward and heal once and for all, this is the community for you. Check the description for all the information. Thank you. I love how you beautifully put it that way, that, this era, this chapter is a birth of a new era and
Mm-hmm.
not a death. as what we have been told. And from all the things that you have said, so, just beautiful package here. Also eye opening. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I got to listen to this episode over and over again. Is that, ladies, please honor yourself. Realize just how incredible you are just by the basic things that your body is doing day in and day out. So if you're here listening and you're feeling less than, you're feeling like you have low self worth, self confidence, self esteem, and you don't know where to start by honoring yourself and your body for what
Yes.
it's doing, especially during this time of our lives, which is midlife. And for the men that's listening, just cut us some break, cut us some slack. Okay, guys, thanks for putting up with, maybe the snarky remarks. I know I noticed myself recently, as when I was PMSing. I not normally, I'm pretty even, like a happy person, but I was a little bit more testy,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what was going on. I spoke to my sister, who has, gone through it already, and she's like, it's just going to be more sensitive. Your symptoms are going to be a lot more sensitive. So, and I was bloating, like, what the hell is happening
Yeah.
to me? Like, my hands were swollen. I'm like, I don't remember working out or sleeping on my, is that something
Mhm.
that's normal also, Lisa? Like, bloating?
Yes, it is very typical. Bloating, like I said, so digestion changes are happening because the systems in our body, many of them. Oh, so one of the other things I also didn't talk about was brain fog and word retrieval. So lots of people will come and they're like, I think I am in the early stages of dementia. And not that I want to say, no, that's impossible. However, the parts of your brain that are responsible for memory have estrogen neuroreceptors. So when estrogen starts declining in our body, and it's not, and so then receptors aren't getting the chemical that they need to fire in the way that they are used to firing, of course, there is going to be a physical symptom that is showing, like, hey, we don't have as much estrogen in here as we used to. And the same thing happens in our digestive system. So that's why it is, but every woman's journey also is completely different. So one person might have bloating, one person might have something completely different. And it is, as you were saying earlier, so important to listen to your own body and trust it, right? We've been so programmed to not trust what our bodies are telling us. And at this juncture in time, it is the greatest tool we have to really stop and look at what are the changes that I am noticing. And then it also makes you be present to your body in ways that, speaking for myself, I was not for a long time, right? Like I was escaping my body in any way that I could for a long time. But this phase demands that you are present and that you are in your body, because your body will like reach out and say, you are no longer ignoring us. So the earlier we listen, the less extreme the body has to be to catch our attention.
I think that's really important that you touch on that. And I appreciate you saying those things, because I know that we have listeners, much like myself, who is distracted. They're trying to, well, for me, I've already been divorced for 10 years. So I'm in a different space of distraction, business distraction now, and
Mhm.
life distraction. But the ones who are, they're out of their divorce, they've signed the papers. These are my clients. But they don't even know who they are. They don't know how to rebuild their life. It's like, okay, great. I was hustling for, these divorce papers, parenting plan. That's all done. Maybe they got their, sowing their wild oats, the things they didn't get to do when they were married. They got that out of the way, but then they feel stuck. And, the single moms that are just trying to figure out how to co-parent with a toxic ex, or even just how to co-parent, period, nurture their kids. There's so many distractions out there. And what Lisa is saying is that it's going to demand you to be mindful and listen to your body. And ladies and men, with the amount of life that is happening to all of us, it's so easy to just get distracted and get caught up in the things that are not as important as your health. Because, as Lisa kindly put it, what I'm going to say is going to smack you right upside the head. Oh, I didn't even tell you this, Lisa. But, and for our audience who didn't catch the other episode, I actually fainted because I wasn't listening to my body, and I hit my head on the concrete. It was horrific. It was actually a scary event. I didn't realize that I was dehydrated, and I had let so much time pass from eating. I was going to a Dodger game, and I was going to have a Dodger dog there. I was going to save myself for that. I not realizing that I had been just also exhausted, overworked, and not doing my practices that I normally, would be doing. And who knows, with the blood sugar going low, peaking at that point in time, I got really dizzy. The place was crowded, and that exacerbated my dizziness. And also, me being a mama bear, I wanted to hold it together and just not say anything. By the time I got to say, I'm feeling dizzy, was already in the process of passing out. Thank God, no internal bleeding, no concussion, but I had a big bump like the size of my palm. And yeah, I had actually a bicycle that softened my fall, my friend told me. I hit my head on the bike tire because if it was straight on the concrete, it would have been catastrophic. And that was my miracle for the day. Thank you so much. All I could think about after the fact were my kids. Like, I cannot be irresponsible. And so, for if you're a single mom, especially, you need to make sure you listen to what Lisa's saying, listen to what I'm saying, because it is absolutely dire that you honor your body, especially at this time of our lives. That's what
Yeah.
happened to me.
I am so glad that there was something that protected your beautiful brains because, absolutely. And that is what happens. We push ourselves beyond what is physically capable of a human because we think that that's the only way. And especially when we're in a place where we feel like we're doing it alone, right? And that we don't have that support and that there is no other option. And one of the things that I, talk to women about a lot is that, and this might be a bit of a take that people are like, but there is a time where we sacrifice for our children, right? When they're tiny humans and they literally cannot do anything else for themselves. We sacrifice our sleep and our mental health and our physical bodies. We do all of that. But a time comes where it's really important that that actually turns off and that we come back to parenting once they're able to survive and they aren't reliant on us to be alive anymore. They need to see us as full humans so that they know how to be full humans and that they don't carry forward this narrative of I have to sacrifice everything about myself to be in service to these young humans. Because if they're not seeing the fullness of who you are, they're not seeing the fullness of who they can be.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So it feels really hard because there is this very strong narrative of sacrifice yourself. You are here in service only. Just do it for other people. But the truth is, when you actually show up in the fullness of yourself in that kind of self leadership, it is a beautiful gift to those who are around you. And a conversation I had with a client was really clarified this for me. And that it was, she said to me, I don't know how to have conversations with my adult children because they have never seen me as a human. They have only seen me as mom, but they don't need me as mom in the same way. But I'm really struggling with getting to know them and having actual conversation with them because they don't know me. And our kids are small for a short period of time. We walk with them as adults for the majority of their life and our lives. And so we want to really be thinking about, what kind of relationship do I want to have with these adults? And they need to know you to be able to do that.
Wow, Lisa, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I feel like I'm least at that point where I have transitioned pretty well with my kids. Being a single mom, I have to have these conversations because I'm wearing all the hats. So, but what you say here is really something that people probably are not thinking about, because I did not think about that. I just was doing it.
Mhm.
So for our audience, thank you for bringing that up, because yeah, that's really critical. You're just so caught up in doing things one way, nurturing, and then you don't have a relationship. And especially if you're a single mom, what was what was that takeaway from that conversation that you could share with us here?
Yeah, it was exactly that you need to be real with your kids and invite them into all of who you are. Like, let them see that this is hard in age appropriate ways. Ask them to help in age appropriate ways, because that's empowering for them too. We when I was pregnant, my midwife, who I loved, was amazing. And I am one of those odd humans who loved being pregnant. Yeah,
I
I
love being
felt
pregnant.
like, I know, I felt like superhuman. I just felt like I was sexy and my hair was great and I felt so good. I mean, after the first 3 months where I felt like I had a hangover for 3 solid months, after that, then I felt better. And so getting close to when I was delivering, I was grieving a little bit. Because I knew that I was gonna miss this pregnancy experience. And she said, Lisa, you don't get pregnant to be pregnant. Right? You get pregnant to have a human and to bring a human into the world. And that advice has stuck with me because I didn't get pregnant to have a baby,
Mm,
right? I got pregnant to have a human. I didn't get pregnant to have a toddler. I didn't get pregnant to have
mm.
a teenager. I took on the role of ushering a human into this space. And when you look at it that way, the more you invite them into the whole process, that's how they learn who they are truly, that they are capable, that they are, brilliant, thoughtful humans, but they need to have the space to have those experiences. And if we do everything for them and completely push all hard things to the side, and the hard emotions, if we don't let them see it, they don't know how to process it. So we really need to invite them into this is what it is to be human, right? Like, it's beautiful and it's hard and sometimes it sucks and then it's amazing. But that's the reality that they need to see in age appropriate ways.
That's so powerful. It's absolutely powerful. It reminds me of my journey too. And it's also reminding me of, our listeners out there who might be trying to really pacify what's going on in their lives. And there are times when I could not help but, break down in front of my kids and then wipe my tears, pick myself back up, and let them know, hey, you know what? Mama's going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And it's okay to feel these emotions, but I was taught differently, Lisa, just
Mhm.
like many of us, especially
Yes.
women, to keep it together, all these roles. and also men's mental health. They're supposed to be a certain way, don't, act manly. But for also me being Filipino, with my culture, it's even exacerbated more to be that person, to serve everyone else, to keep it together, not show your emotions until you're in the bathroom by yourself. But if you're here listening to this, it's because you are in a place where you are allowed to break down, if that's where you're at.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And that is an act of healing, right? And we've been having this conversation in the general culture a little bit more. But every time we have those emotions and we just hold them in the body and don't let ourselves experience it, the body keeps the score. That's a book for a reason, right? So if it just stays in our cells, and the way we process it is to actually feel the emotion, right? To feel the emotion in the moment while it's happening. And when we do that, the process is so much faster, right? When you let it build and build and build and build and build and build and build in your body, and wait for that moment where where you pass out, or where your hair is falling out, or where you're having panic attacks all the time. And that's my story. No, I did that. But when you let yourself actually feel the emotion and let it go move through you, the chemical reaction that is that emotion then like actually processes through your body, and then you move along. Right?
Yes, I could not agree more. And suppressing it, first of all, let's talk about disease, okay? It's called dis-ease for a
Yes.
reason, okay? And that is suppressing emotions, not getting to the root cause, just addressing the symptoms. And it's, if you're the type to pacify things with substance or what have you, I get that, to each their
Mhm.
own. But at the same time, just know that it's going to come up like a vengeance. And it's when you least expect it. Let's say you're dating, and you thought that, oh, I'm just going to push these emotions down and start dating again after my divorce. You're wondering why you are attracting unavailable men,
Yeah.
unavailable partners. Well, perhaps you need to take a good look at yourself and how you're showing up. What is it that's unhealed or unprocessed? But then there's also a flip side to that coin that I went through, where I thought, okay, well, I feel like I'm in a good place, like healthy, worked on myself. I didn't date for many years, and yet when I did meet, which I didn't know at the time, my divine counterpart, I was still getting triggered. And we just don't know when we're going to have those parts of ourselves where we think that it's healed. Someone else comes in and like hits that nerve.
Mhm.
Just know that that's a possibility too, no matter how much work you've done on yourself. To become
Oh.
enlightened is very hard, very, very hard. Might not be achieved in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lifetimes. So,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I'm not sure that it's a destination, right? Like, this
right.
is, yeah, like this is, I know you and I have talked about this before, and it's a conversation that's been coming up a lot lately, but it's this idea that, like, oh, I'm healed and now I'm done. No, because life, as long as you keep living, things are going to happen, and you're going to experience an emotion or a past trauma in a way that you haven't before. Like, someone else will bring out another element of it that you hadn't looked at yet. So I think it's so important to start also breaking down that narrative of, if I healed this and then this thing happened and now I'm broken again. No, you were never broken. None of us were ever broken. We may have had hard experiences and really challenging things in our lives, but you, like the beautifulness of your self, the true self and soul, is always perfect. And it is just realizing, I'm going to have this experience. These things are going to happen, and it's going to be a cycle. And that is what the success is. When you are able to just keep going through that cycle, right? Of, this was working, now it's not, but I figured out another way, and now I'm moving in this direction. that it's this like wave of moving through this very odd experience that we show up to every day.
It is definitely an interesting ride, isn't it? And
Yes, it
it,
is.
the beautiful part about the whole thing is the actual journey. I know it sounds very cliche, but that is the truth. I actually agree with that
Yeah,
cliche. It is the journey, not the destination, because you're not going to arrive as long as you're here and you exist,
yeah,
and you are not doing anything, meaning if you're not, moving, you're dying, you're staying in the same place. If you're not constantly evolving into a different version, whether that's, forward or backwards, you're constantly moving no matter
yes,
what. That's just how life is. And if you're not, like I said, you're slowly dying from the inside out.
yeah,
And that's what Lisa's saying, is that to embrace the fact that you're constantly going to be a different version of yourself, and also honor your body, because we are at this stage constantly evolving. There are days, Lisa, when I'm
mhm.
looking at my recorded videos, I have just done an interview, from one day to the next, I'm like, who is this person? I am like, what the hell? Okay, I'm asking my podcast manager, can we just do this on audio? Because look at my face. Oh my God. And I didn't do anything differently. I was just being. It's just that, like the day of the month. I don't know if I'm in the freaking cycle of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, today
yes.
is a good day. Guys, take a look at take a look at me on video, because today is a good day. I don't feel the bloating in my hands.
I will say so two things. One, like we all have those moments and no one else sees all the things that we think are wrong with us, right? Like no one else notices. I just see your beautiful shiny soul like coming through your skin and it's spectacular. And and the beautiful thing about perimenopause and menopause is that it is this liberation where when you can get into the mind shift of this is my time. You know, when you think back to, I've been using this analogy lately, when you think back to when you were in puberty and everything that you were experiencing, and society gives us time and grace then, right? Like it get we everybody acknowledges, oh, they're prepubescent or they're pubescent, and that's why these
So
things are
good.
happening. And we give teenagers that space. Like look at you and I both have boys about the same age. Like look at how much they sleep. They sleep like champs.
Yes.
And it's because they need it. Like their bodies are evolving so much. And the same thing is happening for us now, but there's no societal constructs that give us that same kind of grace. Like we really should be resting as much as a teenager is resting if you are feeling tired like that, because that is the chemical evolution that is happening in your body. So just being able to look at that as a gift, as no, like this is happening in my body, and I need to give it the rest it needs. I need to give it the love that it needs. I need to pour into it if I want to have the life that I want to live going forward. These are things I must do. And so it can be a great gift when you are able to put it into that perspective.
That is such a gift. What you just said right there. It is an invitation
It is.
to give yourself grace, give yourself permission. And I'm taking that for myself too, which I have been doing more and more. This conversation here is really invaluable, Lisa. Thank you, because it is another reminder for myself that if I'm feeling tired, don't push myself to going to the gym, because, oh, I got to get in my weightlifting, 5 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever that is. Oh, I can't just walk today because walking is not lifting weights. It's just, we have to listen to our body no matter what, especially at this stage, in order for us to show up in the best way for ourselves and, of course, those around us, especially our children. And
Yeah.
you're so experienced in this space too, from your personal journey, Lisa, and also your coaching and the many things that you've done to guide other businesses and people. And I know that you've learned a lot of lessons being a menopause coach and advocate, right? So
Hmm.
what could you tell our audience of divorced women and single moms, how they can apply these lessons that you've learned in their own journey?
Yeah. So one, what I want to say about this is that I am on this journey too. So when I say these words, I'm not just saying them out to you or out to the audience. I'm saying them to myself. Because even though yes, I am a trained menopause coach with a decade, with, decades of experience in education, there are days where it's too much for me too. And letting yourself be okay with that, of knowing, when you're talking about, yes, weightlifting is really important, right? It's one of the key elements. And if your body says no on that day, then it's important to listen to it and say, like, if it says, just let me walk today, then just walk. And it's not easy. And it is a constant, because we have to reprogram all of these neural pathways. So, one of the things I start with clients is writing a midlife manifesto. And so, this is a really practical way that you can embed a strategy right away into your everyday. But that midlife, I have a process where I work people through, like, what all the things that are important to you. What's spiritually important to you, mentally important to you, physically, emotionally. I walk them through a process, and then we take all of the themes from that and we turn it into a phrase. So a phrase like, what is your midlife manifesto? And mine is, I am here to live with joy, vitality, and purpose.
Mm,
So, whenever I am getting into that mindset of this is all too effing much, I breathe and use that midlife manifesto, right? Because that is what will start to reprogram those neural pathways, so that that becomes my default rather than the like overwhelm. Or not that that never happens. I mean, it will happen, but it is one strategy that you can like just put into place right away.
that's wonderful. It's quick, it's, practical, and like you said, you can do it as soon as you're done listening to the show, and of course subscribing to both of our shows. Don't forget
Yes.
that part, okay? Transforming 45, and it gets better from here. I'm actually going to do that for myself, Lisa. That's great because, like for the days that is, like you said, okay, this is hard. You can
Hmm.
go back to that, and there is such tremendous power in having that, even an affirmation or an incantation,
Yep.
because like you said, the neural pathways. And for me, I'm also trained in past life regression hypnosis, and I cannot tell you guys the power of the subconscious mind. And
Hmm.
you need to be the driver, which is only 5%, because 95% is the automatic behaviors, the programming, autopilot that we have been conditioned and told all our lives. So you're only actually consciously in control 5% of the time. Make this one of your 5% of the time, because it's very powerful, especially for the stage. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. And so before we start wrapping up, I love to ask my guests two questions because I love metaphysics. I want to put you
Yes.
on a time machine. So if you could go back in time, what is the one thing you could do differently?
I was really thinking about this question, and I always am like, I hesitate to go back and change something, because what if it changes everything going forward? So there's that, like, there's that part of me. But the other part is, I wouldn't have waited so long. I wouldn't have waited until my hair was falling out and I was crying on the way home from work every day. I wouldn't have made the universe get so spicy with me, right? Because it really was. there had been signs, there had been quiet whispers, for years. And if I had listened to them at that point, my body wouldn't have been in the place that it was, where that it was like, we can't keep doing this. You're either going to live or you're going to keep on this trail, but both of these things are not going to happen. So I wouldn't have waited as long to make this transition in my life.
Wow, that's very powerful for the ones that are in, thinking about, am I not? You need to be your own advocate. Lisa
Yes.
is telling you straight up right now, she wished she didn't wait that long. So
Hmm.
you don't have to wait until things are falling apart, because sometimes it's too late. Sometimes you're so deep in shit by then. It's too late.
Yes. And it's such a longer climb up, because not only is there, the spiritual and emotional healing that's happening, but then there's also physical healing that has to happen. And when we listen to what the universe is telling us, when it's still at the quiet whisper phase, it's not as energy expensive to come back up out of the hole that the universe has been yelling at us the whole time, like, hey, you're going in that hole. Hello. Right. So when we listen right off the beginning, it's not so energy expensive.
I could not agree more. Or catastrophic to your life, and God forbid
Yes.
your children's life, from people around you making, bad choices because you're ignoring the signs. Like
Yeah.
you said, they're whispers as opposed to megaphone. For me, I my analogy is my hammers to the head. The
Yeah.
old versions of me. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I needed to get a drop hammer to get my attention at one point in time, because
Yes.
I didn't have, like, my intuition was so disconnected from myself. When I was going through my divorce, I just,
Hmm.
was logically trying to make sense of everything. So my compass was broken for quite some time, and I was at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And this is the whole point of having this podcast. This is the whole point of me answering my calling, because there's not enough out there. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way, because I've been there, and also I have the training. It does not have to be that way, and you can also quantum leap yourself and your healing in such a way where you don't have to suffer for as long as you need to, as long as I have, and as
Yes.
long as Lisa has.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Lisa, while we're in that time machine, one last question.
Yeah.
What is the one piece of advice you could tell, if you could, your younger self?
Oh gosh, it would be to not lose that little girl who was so excited to be on this planet. Right? I remember being this very new, sparkly human, and how excited I was in the world before Earth School started layering on all the lessons. It's to stay connected to that sparkly energy and don't lose her. Yes, life is going to teach us in lots of ways. We're going to shift and change, but she remains a really important part. And the more connected you can stay to that sparkly energy, that newness, it's what keeps us going, right? It's the embracing the fun of this absurd place. It's the being able to look through a child's eyes and be like, what is this? This is weird. And laugh about it. So it allows us to look at, where I am in the world. It's the most beautiful spring day. Everything is the freshest shade of green. And getting my feet on the earth and picking lily of the valley, that's the little girl me that just loves every element of this planet. And I was disconnected to her for a really long time. And building that connection back with her and bringing her back into the human that I am now is it's some of the best healing work that I have done, and has really shifted the way I show up to the world every day.
I love that. It's so absolutely beautiful and so true, because, as you know, this is an earth school, like you said, and only the bravest souls come here to reincarnate, because it is not easy. But what you can hold on to is your childlike wonder and your curiosity. And
Yes.
and especially for our audience here, that might be a far-fetched thing for where you're at right now, but it really doesn't need to be. It doesn't
No.
need to be.
This is one of the things that I do with clients is help them build this sensory reconnection, and it's just going back to remembering. Like really remember, what is one time where you felt really joyful, where you felt like this place was a miracle. Like go back to that memory and then just stay with it, and what did it feel like? What did it smell like? What did it sound like? Activate all of your senses and then let the emotion rush through your body and hold on. It's called anchoring, right? So it's like you're anchoring that emotion so that you can use it as a resource. So that when you are in that place that feels dark and it feels heavy and like you're never going to get out of it, go back to that joyful anchor and flood your system with that emotion, and it will help to clear out all the dark and the heavy. So it's a really lovely because it's not painful, right? Like it's a lovely way of creating some reconnection and a way of feeling good emotions when you don't have the current capacity to do so.
All I can think about here that you said that, which is so beautiful, is all I could think about is how your body will feel such homeostasis when you are doing that practice, like you said, the anchoring, because flooding your body, mind, body, spirit, actually, with that, beautiful emotion is really anchoring, like you said. And Lisa, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us here and just honestly enlightening us with tips, wisdom, and personal experience. That's, it's funny now, but not while you were going through it. I can imagine, like, how I went through my journey, and I'm sure, our audience can relate too. Before we end our conversation, please let us know where we can find you, what you're working on, anything you want to promote.
Yeah. So you can find me pretty much anywhere. So Cheryl mentioned earlier, my show is Transforming 45. So my episodes drop every Thursday. So you can find me on your favorite listening platform and YouTube. I am at Boate on Instagram. My website is liberatedmenopause.ca. And I am just in the final stages of my online course. It's a 12 module. It's called From Loss to Liberation, Embracing Life Beyond the Nest, which is a really holistic look at returning to yourself in the empty nest. And also, there's a lot of menopause and perimenopause content in there and strategies for how to feel better. So, that is going to be available very soon, which I'm very excited about.
That is so exciting, Lisa. I'm so happy for you. And for our community that's listening, whether if you are on YouTube or if you're in one of the podcast platforms, all of her information, Lisa's information, will be in the show notes. So please be sure to check her out. Lisa, thank you so much, my beautiful friend. I can never get enough of our conversations. I just want to give you the biggest virtual hug. And thank you for being here again.
Well, thank you for making this space, and I'm sending a virtual hug back.
That is it for this week's episode. I hope that you have enjoyed all of the things that you've learned here today from Lisa. Our conversation has been incredibly enlightening and beautiful, especially for what it means to be a woman at this stage in our life and just being a woman, period. So if you can, I would love for you to please help me in my mission of empowering and helping the lives of millions of divorced women and single moms by hitting that subscribe button and sharing this episode with somebody that you know that could benefit from it. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, no matter where you're at in your journey, no matter how old you are, it gets better from here.